The crystalline spires of Lumeria's capital shimmered under its 3 moons, their light refracting through the transparent structures in a dance of colors that had captivated visitors for millennia. But tonight, those same spires trembled. The swarm was coming. High Speaker Nara stood before the emergency council, her luminescent scales dulled with exhaustion. The holographic display behind her showed the approaching swarm fleet, a writhing mass of biomechanical ships that had already devoured 3 systems in the past solar cycle. "The diplomatic corps has failed," she announced, her voice carrying the weight of billions of lives. "The swarm refuses all communication. She paused, mandibles clicking in distress. "They only broadcast one message. Feed." The council chamber erupted in overlapping frequencies of distress, the Lumerian equivalent of panicked murmuring. Elder Kex, his scales faded with age, raised a trembling appendage. "The Arcturian defense fleet. Destroyed." Nyara's inner eyelids flickered rapidly. The swarm adapted to their quantum torpedoes within minutes. "The Meridian Alliance refuses to send aid. They say containing the swarm to our sector is the best strategy." "Then we are alone," someone whispered, the words echoing in the chamber's perfect acoustics. "No," Nyara's voice cut through the despair. "There is one other option." She gestured, and the holographic display shifted, showing a planet wrapped in swirling storms, its surface scarred by massive lightning strikes and volcanic activity. Terra. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the youngest council member knew of the Deathworld and its inhabitants. Humans, the species that had evolved on a planet that should have killed them 1,000 times over. A world of crushing gravity, extreme temperature variations, and constant natural disasters. A world that had forged its children into something the galaxy had never seen before. Impossible. Elder Kex's scales flashed warning patterns. "The humans are. They're monsters." Nyara completed his thought. "Perhaps, but they are monsters who have never initiated a war. Monsters who, despite their terrifying capabilities, have only ever fought in defense of others since achieving spaceflight." The display changed again, showing historical footage. A human vessel, tiny compared to its opponent, ramming through a slave trader's shield barrier. Human Marines in powered armor, charging into plasma fire to evacuate civilian refugees. A lone human ship standing against a fleet to buy time for a colony's evacuation. "The stories say," Nyara continued, her voice soft but carrying to every corner of the chamber, "that humans have one weakness. They cannot ignore a cry for help. Their own history is full of examples where they bled and died for strangers, simply because it was, in their words, the right thing to do. And what if they help us, only to decide we should be conquered for our own good?" Another council member asked, their scales shifting in anxiety patterns. Nyara's outer membrane rippled, the Lumerian equivalent of a sad smile. "Then we die under human rule instead of being consumed by the swarm. But I don't believe that will happen. I've studied them. Their concept of honor is alien to us, but it is unshakable. They keep their words, even when it costs them greatly." She turned to the full council, her scales now pulsing with determination. "We can debate until the swarm arrives, or we can take a chance on the Deathworlders. They call themselves the protectors of the weak. Let us see if they live up to that claim." The council chamber fell silent again as the members communicated through subtle color changes in their scales. Finally, Elder Kex spoke, his patterns showing resignation and hope in equal measure. "Send the call. Let us pray the monsters of Terra are truly the heroes they claim to be." Nyara turned to the quantum communicator, its ancient circuits humming to life. As she prepared to broadcast their plea across the vast distance to Earth, she wondered what kind of beings would answer. Would they be the nightmares of legend, or something else entirely? The fate of her people now rested on the answer to that question. The message was simple. To the people of Earth, we are the Lumerians. Our civilization faces extinction from a force we cannot defeat. We have heard the stories of your strength, your courage, and your honor. If these stories are true, we beg for your help. We offer everything we have in exchange for your protection. Please, we have nowhere else to turn. As the message pulsed outward through quantum space, Nyara watched the swarms approach on the holographic display. They had perhaps 3 days before the first wave arrived. Would it be enough time? Would the humans even answer? The wait began, and with it, the true test of humanity's nature. Deep within the Sol system's Kuiper defense ring, alarms blared through the monitoring station's corridors. Lieutenant Sarah Chen sprinted to the quantum communications hub, her boots magnetic locking with each step in the low gravity. The message that had triggered every emergency protocol in the system was still repeating, its alien frequencies haunting in their desperation. Admiral Rice needs to see this, she transmitted to her superior. Within minutes, the quantum feed was being analyzed in the heart of Earth's Defense Command. Admiral Elena Rice stood before the assembled Joint Chiefs, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic display of the Lumerian distress signal. Behind her, tactical displays showed the real-time analysis of the swarm's advancement through what had once been peaceful space. The Lumerians rejected our offers of alliance 3 times in the past decade, General Zhang noted, his augmented eyes scanning through historical data. They call us, and I quote, too dangerous to associate with. And now they need us, Admiral Rice replied, her voice carrying the weight of command. The question isn't whether they deserve our help. The question is, can we live with ourselves if we don't give it? The room fell silent. Every officer present knew the cost of war against the swarm. The simulations were already running. Casualty projections, resource expenditure, tactical scenarios. The swarm's adaptive capabilities made them particularly dangerous. Every engagement would be costlier than the last. The 7th Fleet is closest, Admiral Rice continued, pulling up deployment maps. Task Force Prometheus can be there in 36 hours if we push the drives to their limits. The rest of the fleet can follow in stages. The Prometheus. General Zhang's eyebrows rose. That's our most advanced battle group. You want to commit it to defending a civilization that wouldn't even trade with us. Admiral Rice turned to face the assembled leaders, her dark eyes fierce. I want to commit it to defending innocent lives. And I want to show the galaxy exactly what humanity stands for. The decision was made within the hour. Across the Sol system, humanity's war machine roared to life. The massive shipyards of Mars began accelerating production. The asteroid mining operations diverted their resources to military supply lines. And in high orbit above Earth, Task Force Prometheus prepared for emergency transition. Aboard the TSS Prometheus, Captain Michael O'Connor received his orders directly from Admiral Rice. His bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, preparing the massive vessel and its escort fleet for faster-than-light travel. Message from Lumerian space. His communications officer reported, the swarm has begun its first attacks on their outer colonies. Civilian casualties. Significant. O'Connor's jaw tightened. Push the drives harder. Navigation. Plot the most direct course. We're not waiting for the rest of the fleet. As Task Force Prometheus prepared to depart, Admiral Rice made one final transmission to the Lumerian Council. Help is coming. Hold on. The response was immediate, carrying both hope and fear. The swarm has adapted to every weapon we've ever used against them. What makes you think you can succeed where others have failed? Admiral Rice allowed herself a grim smile as she watched Prometheus and its battle group vanish into FTL. Because we evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day of our existence. Because we've spent our entire history learning to adapt faster than our enemies. And because we've never, in all our years among the stars, learned how to ignore a cry for help. Back on Lemuria, High Speaker Nyara received the human transmission with mixed emotions. Help was coming. But would it arrive in time? The swarm had already breached the defenses of their outermost colony. Reports of destruction and death poured in through quantum channels. Elder Kex, watching the tactical displays with horror, turned to Nyara. What have we done? We've drawn the attention of two apex predators, the humans and the swarm. We may have doomed ourselves twice over. Nyara's scales shifted through patterns of determination. No, we've given ourselves a chance. The humans, they didn't hesitate. They didn't negotiate terms. They simply said they were coming to help. And that doesn't terrify you? Kex demanded. It terrifies me completely, Nyara admitted. But it also gives me hope, because for the first time since the swarm appeared, I believe we might survive. In the void between stars, Task Force Prometheus pushed its engines beyond their rated limits. The human ships, each a testament to humanity's marriage of power and precision, carved through space-time itself in their rush to answer the call for help. They carried with them humanity's most advanced weapons, their most experienced warriors, and something the swarm had never encountered before: the unshakable determination of a species that had conquered a death world through sheer stubborn will. The race against time had begun. The only question was, would humanity's strength be enough against an enemy that evolved with every engagement? The answer would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what it truly meant to be a death world species. The Lumerian colony world of Azura burned. Swarm bioships darkened its skies, their massive forms blocking out the system's twin suns. On the surface, desperate colonists huddled in underground shelters as siege beasts. Towering organic machines stalked through the ruins of their cities. Captain O'Connor stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the tactical display with cold fury. His task force had dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system, sensors immediately painting a grim picture of the invasion in progress. Multiple biosignatures detected, his tactical officer reported. The swarm appears to be feeding on the planet's biomass. They're converting it directly into more units. Life signs in the colonial capital. Affirmative. Approximately 12,000 survivors in the deep shelters. The swarm is trying to breach them. O'Connor's expression hardened. The Prometheus and its escort fleet had arrived ahead of schedule, pushing their engines past safety limits. They were alone against an enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations. But they were also humanity's finest, crews chosen for their ability to adapt and overcome impossible odds. All ships, Combat Formation Delta, O'Connor ordered. Deploy the countermeasures we developed en route. Let's see how the swarm handles something they've never encountered before. The human fleet moved with precision that would have shocked the Lumerians. These weren't the brutal warships of legend. They were elegant instruments of warfare, each movement calculated and purposeful. From their hulls sprouted clouds of microscopic machines, quantum lock nanites designed to infiltrate and disrupt the swarm's biological networks. The swarm responded immediately, their ships turning toward the new threat with predatory grace. But as they launched their first attack, something unexpected happened. Their bioweapons, evolved to penetrate energy shields, passed harmlessly through gaps in the human formation. They're using attack patterns based on their previous encounters, O'Connor noted. Standard evolutionary response. Time to show them why that's a mistake against humans. The Prometheus's main gun spoke, a concentrated beam of exotic particles that didn't so much penetrate the swarm's defenses as ignore them completely. The beam struck a massive high ship, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the ship began to dissolve, its molecular bonds unraveling as the particle beam rewrote the laws of physics in a localized area. Target their largest concentrations, O'Connor commanded. Force them to adapt. Every adaptation drains their resources. The battle that followed would be studied in war colleges across the galaxy for centuries to come. The swarm, true to its nature, began evolving countermeasures almost immediately. But humanity had spent its entire existence adapting to overcome challenges. Each swarm adaptation was met with 3 human counters, each human weapon designed not just to destroy, but to force the swarm to expend precious energy evolving defenses. In the colonial capital below, Lumerian survivors watched in awe as strange lights filled their sky. The human ships danced through space with impossible agility, their weapons ranging from microscopic machines to beams that bent reality itself. This wasn't the brute force the galaxy had expected from Deathworlders. It was warfare elevated to an art form. "They're retreating from the surface," the tactical officer reported. "Swarm units are abandoning their siege positions to reinforce their fleet." O'Connor allowed himself a grim smile. "Deploy the ground teams. Show them why humans excel at surface combat too." From the Prometheus and its escorts dropped hundreds of pods, each containing a single human warrior in powered armor. As they pierced the atmosphere, the Lumerians witnessed something that would become legendary: humans purposefully entering combat against siege beasts many times their size. The powered armor suits were marvels of engineering, but it was their pilots' Death World heritage that made them truly formidable. Humans could process battlefield information faster, adapt to changing conditions more quickly, and withstand physical stresses that would kill most species. Each warrior moved with the fluid grace of a predator, their suits amplifying strengths that evolution on Earth had already honed to remarkable levels. In orbit, the space battle reached its crescendo. The swarm, for the first time in its existence, faced an enemy that outpaced its ability to adapt. Human weapons and tactics changed not just between encounters, but during them, displaying an innovative spirit born from millennia of overcoming planetary challenges that should have killed them. "The swarm is attempting to retreat," the tactical officer announced. "They're abandoning their harvested biomass to increase acceleration." "Don't let them escape," O'Connor ordered. "If even one ship gets away, they'll evolve countermeasures for everything we've shown them." End this here. The human fleet executed a maneuver that seemed to defy physics, their drives pushing the very limits of space-time to cut off the swarm's escape. What followed wasn't just a victory, it was an extinction event. Every swarm ship, every piece of their biological technology, was systematically destroyed. As the last swarm ship died, silence fell over the battlefield. On the surface, human warriors stood amid the wreckage of siege beasts, their armor scared but their mission accomplished. In the shelters below, Lumerian survivors emerged to find their invaders vanquished and their saviors standing guard. Captain O'Connor opened a channel to the Lumerian colonial governor. "Your world is secure. We'll need to establish quarantine protocols to ensure no swarm biomatter survived, but the immediate threat has been eliminated." The governor's response came thick with emotion. "How? How did you defeat them so completely?" O'Connor's reply would be remembered for generations. "Because on Earth, adaptation isn't just a survival mechanism. It's an art form. We didn't just evolve to survive our death world. We evolved to thrive on it. The swarm adapts to survive. Humans adapt to win." In the days following the Battle of Azura, High Speaker Naira walked through the ruins of the colonial capital alongside Commander Sarah Chen. The human officer had removed her helmet, revealing features that seemed simultaneously fierce and gentle, a contradiction that Naira was beginning to recognize as quintessentially human. "Your warriors," Naira began, her scales shifting in patterns of confusion. "They could have operated their combat suits remotely. Why risk their physical presence?" Sarah paused to help a group of Lumerian children clear debris from their school's entrance. "Because there are some things machines can't do," she answered, her smile drawing surprised color ripples from the children. "Like knowing when to stop shooting and start helping." Around them, human soldiers worked alongside Lumerian civilians, their powered armor now being used to lift fallen buildings and clear roads. Some distributed supplies, while others helped set up field hospitals. The same beings who had torn apart swarm siege beasts now gently helped injured Lumerians and comforted frightened younglings. "We don't understand you," Naira admitted, watching a human warrior use their suit's medical systems to treat a Lumerian elder's wounds. "The story said you were monsters, forged in a world of constant death. But you're so much more complex." Sarah's expression grew thoughtful. "Earth tried to kill us every day, that's true. We had to become strong to survive. But strength isn't just about fighting. It's about knowing when not to fight. About using our power to protect rather than destroy. They reached a hillside overlooking the city, where the Prometheus hung in the sky above, its presence now a source of comfort rather than fear. Teams of human scientists worked with Lumerian researchers, sharing data about the swarm and developing new defensive technologies. Your people are adapting our crystalline architecture to enhance your quantum weapons, Nyara observed, her scales showing patterns of amazement. You're learning from us, even after proving your superiority. Sarah shook her head. Superior? No, different. Your people mastered crystal engineering in ways we never imagined. We're not here to prove we're better. We're here because together, we're stronger than either of us alone. A group of human engineers had gathered around a Lumerian civil planner, fascinated by the mathematical principles behind their transparent spires. Meanwhile, Lumerian scientists studied the humans' powered armor with equal interest, their scales flickering with excitement at each new discovery. But surely, Nyara pressed, with your power, you could have demanded anything in return for your help. You could rule our worlds, take our resources. We could, Sarah agreed, her voice firm. And that's exactly why we won't. On Earth, the most dangerous predators weren't always the biggest or strongest. They were the ones who knew when not to use their strength. We learned that lesson over millions of years of evolution. A distant explosion drew their attention. In a designated safe zone, human and Lumerian researchers were testing hybrid weapons against samples of swarm biomatter, ensuring nothing survived to regenerate. The collaboration between the species was already yielding results neither could have achieved alone. Your council feared we would try to conquer you, Sarah continued. But conquest is easy. Building something together, that's the real challenge. That's what humans live for. As if to emphasize her point, a human medical team successfully adapted their regeneration technology to work with Lumerian biology, healing injuries that would have been permanent just days before. The grateful patient's scales radiated patterns of joy that needed no translation. We've received reports, Nara said, her patterns showing concern, of other swarm fleets in distant sectors. They'll come again, won't they? Sarah nodded grimly. They will. But next time, they won't face just humans or just Lumerians. They'll face both of us, working together. And if there's one thing Deathworld evolution taught us, it's that cooperation is the ultimate survival strategy. A squad of human warriors passed by, their armor now decorated with crystalline patterns inspired by Lumerian art. They were teaching Lumerian security forces how to operate modified versions of human combat suits, adapted to work with their unique biology. Perhaps, Nara suggested, her scales showing the complex pattern of an epiphany. We were wrong about what makes a species truly dangerous. We thought it was your physical capabilities, your weapons. But it's this, isn't it? Your ability to turn enemies into allies, to build instead of destroy. Sarah smiled. That's the real legacy of Earth. Our world taught us to be strong enough to survive anything. But it also taught us that the greatest strength lies in lifting others up, not crushing them down. That's why we answered your call, not to prove our power, but to share it. As night fell over the recovering colony, the lights of human and Lumerian technology blended together, creating new patterns in the darkness. The monsters of legend had revealed themselves to be something far more remarkable. Beings whose greatest power lay not in their capacity for violence, but in their determination to protect, to build, and to unite. The great chamber of the Galactic Concordat fell silent as High Speaker Nara took the podium, her scales shimmering with determination. Beside her stood Admiral Elena Reyes, her presence causing ripples of unease among the assembled representatives of 100 spacefaring species. 3 cycles ago, Nara began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. My people faced extinction. We turned to humanity in our darkest hour, expecting warriors. What we found instead were teachers, healers, and protectors. The holographic displays activated, showing the transformed Lumerian worlds. Where there had once been only crystalline cities, now hybrid structures rose. Human engineering seamlessly blended with Lumerian crystal tech. Defense platforms orbited populated worlds, their designs a perfect fusion of both species' technologies. The swarm is not defeated, Admiral Rice continued, her voice steady and strong. They're adapting, evolving, gathering strength in the dark spaces between galaxies. But they're about to learn what humanity has always known. True strength lies not in isolation, but in unity. The displays shifted, showing the first graduates of the Joint Defense Academy, human and Lumerian officers training together, each learning from the other's strengths. Humans had adapted Lumerian crystal tech to enhance their quantum weapons, while Lumerians had incorporated human tactical flexibility into their strategic thinking. "We come before this council not to announce a military alliance," Nayara declared, her scales pulsing with purpose, "but to propose something far more ambitious, a new framework for galactic cooperation, based not on fear of the strong, but on the strength of unity." The chamber erupted in overlapping frequencies of discussion. A Meridian representative rose, their crystalline form catching the light. "You propose we ally with Deathworlders, the same humans whose very existence has caused panic in our risk assessment protocols." Admiral Rice stepped forward, and the chamber quieted. "Your fear of us was never misplaced," she acknowledged. "Humanity is dangerous. We evolved on a world that taught us to be strong, to be fierce, to never give up. But Earth taught us something else too, something far more important." The displays showed new images, human medical teams working with alien doctors, engineering corps collaborating on massive construction projects, joint scientific expeditions venturing into unexplored space. Earth taught us that the strongest survive not by dominating others, but by helping them survive too. A lone predator dies, but a pack thrives. A single species may fall, but united, we can face any threat. From the gallery, Elder Kex watched with pride as Nayara unveiled the proposed Galactic Defense Initiative, a framework for sharing technology, knowledge, and resources across all willing species. The same humans who had been feared as monsters were now offering to teach others how to be strong. "We've seen humanity's warriors," Nayara addressed the council, "but we've also seen their hearts. They fight not for glory or dominion, but because they cannot ignore a cry for help. They build not to impose their will, but to strengthen others." The evidence was undeniable. Trade routes the humans protected had become safer. Worlds that partnered with them saw advances in medicine, technology, and defense. The Deathworlders had become not conquerors, but guardians. "The swarm will return," Admiral Rice concluded, "and they won't be alone. The galaxy faces threats that no single species can overcome. But together we can forge something new. Not an empire of fear, but a federation of equals, each contributing their unique strengths." The voting began. One by one, species that had once feared humanity's very existence pledged themselves to this new vision. The Meridians, the Arcturians, even the notoriously isolationist Quantum Collective, all saw the wisdom in unity. As the session ended, Nayara found herself in the garden chamber with Admiral Rice, watching the artificial sunset paint the sky in impossible colors. "They still fear us a little," Rice observed with a slight smile. "Good," Nayara replied, her scales showing amusement. "A little fear keeps us wise. But they also trust you now. They've seen that humanity's greatest strength isn't in your weapons or your technology." "No," Rice agreed. "Our greatest strength is in knowing that no matter how strong you are alone, you're stronger together. Earth taught us to survive against impossible odds. Now we can teach others to do the same." Above them, the first ships of the new joint fleet moved into formation, human vessels alongside Lumerian crystal ships and dozens of other designs, each bringing their own unique capabilities to the Alliance. They were no longer separate species facing the darkness alone, but a united force, ready to protect all life in the galaxy. The monsters from the Deathworld had shown the galaxy a truth as old as Earth itself, that life thrives not through dominance, but through cooperation. And in doing so, they had transformed from figures of terror into something far more powerful, teachers, guardians, and friends to all who would stand with them against the darkness. In the depths of space, the swarm continued to evolve, growing stronger with each passing moment. But they would soon learn what it meant to face not just the children of Earth, but a galaxy united under the banner of cooperation and mutual protection. The age of fear was over. The age of unity had begun.